Okay, we're back again, like Osman Asatar. I can't believe, I know it's kind of like, a week or two removed from that. I just can't believe that my guy's like Teflon bulletproof. But anyway, I digress. It's just,
Well, no. But like, I'm gonna split this. Did you not see what Ali Abdelaziz said was in the bag?
no,
Did you not
no, I
see?
didn't.
Oh, he
No, I
didn't.
didn't.
He did an interview with Kevin Iole, and he said, and I'm not bullshitting you when I say this, and I know I fucked up the flow or whatever, but I just had to get it in there. He said that potatoes were in the bag.
Potatoes.
Bro, I'm not.
Lie.
I'm not.
Big lie.
You. I'm not lying. Google it. That's what he said was in it. Twitter search it. That's what he said was in the thing. He did an interview to Kevin Iole.
Raw potatoes. So okay, maybe we're doing this to death, but I'm intrigued now. You've got me. I'm gonna buy it. How do you actually do anything with raw potatoes?
I don't know, bro. Unless it's them African pounding yams. That's the. I don't know.
Wow. He said on video. He did. Wow. I'm looking at the YouTube
video.
video.
He said potatoes, bro. He just.
Was it just potatoes?
No,
potatoes and a woman.
or at least some relish, to go with the potato.
Wow, some mayo.
He's lying. Oh, he even looks like he's lying in the video. He was like thinking about it. He was like potatoes.
Yeah, I know.
Terrible lie.
Yeah, it's a lie. I know, obviously, but I mean.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. You have caught me off guard and off flow for my wicked intro, but I'm glad I know that now. That has like put that to bed because I did wonder. Look, we've got quite a lot on the docket this week. Rest up G, no G this week. Yep. She is in recovery now, so she hopefully will be back by the time that we record on the weekend. But I'm going to kick things off. Look, I'm all for smack talk. I'm all for keeping it real. I'm all for entertaining the fans. But when does keeping it real get a little bit too real and a little bit too raw? What I'm talking about is, look, we've got Piotr Jan versus Aljamain Sterling this weekend. But in the build-up to that, Piotr Jan thought it was hijinks, funny, and the height of entertainment to single out a homeless chap on the street who, I have to say, looked as though he was having a distressing time being on camera, and in the midst of looked like a mental health crisis as well, singled him out to call him Aljamain Sterling. Now, I get it. The build-up to a fight should be intriguing. It should beguile us. It should make us think, you know what? I'm tuning in to see someone's head get knocked off or him knock someone else's head off. But when do we overstep the mark? When is trash talk a little bit too excessive, a little bit too close to the bone? So that's my question to you. Is there a threshold? Is there a level where we say to ourselves, skirt, we need to pull back from this? And what is that level? First of all, just to get some kind of like barometer on levels, was that out of order what Piotr Jan did? I'm going to go with Kairos first up.
It was out of line, but only because it involved somebody else that wasn't his target. I think when we're talking about promotings, I would be a liar. I would be a liar if I was like, he went over the top because you can't talk about your opponent like that. No, I'm a huge fan of 50 Cent, and that man is ruthless. He talks about everyone, and he will talk about you for months. And so I would be a hypocrite to say that Piotr Jan would be out of line if he did this and a homeless man or another person wasn't involved. But because someone else was involved who had nothing to do with this, who was going through their own problems, yes.
Yeah, it was out of order. It was completely out of order. To one, just make light of the clear mental health issues that this person is exhibiting. That didn't sit right with me, and it was just how comfortable and how easy it came to him. And I also remember, I think in the following, it was on Instagram, it was in his Instagram story, and I think the next one, he was videoing somebody who was like drunk as hell out as well at the same time. And
wow,
whether it was drunk as hell as in they've been partying that day, or if it was drunk as hell as in they're an alcoholic and they're out on the street and what have you. And I think, as Kyra said, when it's when you're involving somebody that isn't the target of well, sorry, when you're involving somebody who isn't the target and you're bringing them into your beef with somebody else, especially somebody, let alone somebody who clearly has mental health problems, I think it's wrong. But it goes back to the preamble before the McGregor Khabib fight. I mean, a lot of people are like, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about what have you, and I mean, there are certain aspects of it that of the sentiment that was being bandied about at that time, which I agreed with. But at the same time, I mean, it added to the it added to the pay-per-view, it added to the story, it added to the narrative. But I mean, for me, like, what's the mafia's code? It's no women, no children, no. Yeah, I mean, you leave those things are sacred. You leave that out. For me, I'd like to think that you could. I like to think fighters could trash talk and shit talk without having to bring up religion and things of that an inflammable nature like that. But some people do it, and I think the precedent's been set. The precedent's been set with Conor. Nobody else has gone that route, and I don't think anybody else is going to take it, or take it further than that. But I mean, I'm like Karis. I'd be a liar if I didn't say that it also added to the pageantry of fighting and the build up, the preamble to fights.
Mike, do you agree with that rule about no women and no children allowed?
I do. I do, because for me, there is a sacredness when you're bringing children into the mix who are completely innocent and have nothing to do with the actual argument or the actual beef or the disagreement, plus women as well. Someone's wife is a million miles removed from the gym, but you're involving her as well. But I'll add one more to that, and that's why I asked about the actual threshold. I'll add mental health in there as well. You've got a homeless chap who is clearly distressed, who's clearly in the midst of a mental health crisis, but you thought it funny to actually involve him. But like I'm saying, I'm trying to get your threshold now, because I'm glad you mentioned the whole Khabib Conor situation and scenario, because that, to me, that got a pass. It got a pass because it did what it said on the tin. It got under Khabib's skin.
Yeah.
And there were no children involved, and there were no women involved, and there was nothing to do with mental health. It did what Conor set out to do, and that was it riled Khabib. So that's what I'm saying. In terms of thresholds, don't get me wrong, I'd be a hypocrite if I was to sit here and say, you know what, this trash talking, it's not for me. Dan Hardy did it exceptionally well. Paul Daly did it exceptionally well. Michael Venom Page does it exceptionally well. You name it. Those trash talkers, those greats that we can like reel off, that's part of the whole buildup. That's part of the whole hype. That's part of the whole exchange that, you know, I feel is necessary to get some kind of like feeling behind the fight. So with that gone, it's a little bit boring, a little bit staid, a little bit kind of like clinical.
Yeah,
So
no,
I need it.
Yeah, I get that, but there was aspects of, like, in particular when a reporter at the first 229 press conference said salam alaikum to Habib, and you heard the way in which Conor just I was just like, what are you doing? I was like, I thought, for me, that crossed the line. And what I also thought crossed the line was the fact, remember, he branded Abdulmalak Nurmagomedov, the late Abdulmalak Nurmagomedov, a quivering coward who is bowing down to a Chechen or something along those lines. I mean, that, for me, I think that was a step too far.
Yeah.
But do you believe? Well, no, I'm sure you're both in unanimous agreement with this. That, remember when Conor called Habib's wife a towel?
No, that's borderline racist to me.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's just clarify that. That obviously is the boundary, like clear as day. I mean, that is borderline racism, making light of a time-honored custom in that culture.
Yeah, and being a woman as well. Nah.
Yeah, of course.
That doesn't get a pass.
You know, no, that doesn't, and quite rightly, he was derided for it. I mean, most people didn't stand for it, and we've seen, well, we see on the timeline people making all sorts of defenses for behavior that Conor McGregor has done, and not just Conor. There are other fighters who obviously have questionable behaviors and morals, but even nobody defended that whatsoever.
You're right. I mean, there have been some real greats in the past. I mean, the one that kind of like sticks out and sticks in my mind is quite pertinent at the moment was Dan Hardy when he, at the press conference with Carlos Condit just before they met in London, he said to Carlos Condit, look, I'm going to knock you out, stamp your passport, and put you back on that plane unconscious. Now, that to me, I loved it. I loved it because that was part of the kind of like pageantry of it all. But, you know, I know I'm kind of like digressing ever so slightly, but what do we think of Dan Hardy? Again, this must be comeback number 357.
Oh,
for me, Dan Hardy saying that he's coming back has to be taken with a grain of salt that you get on a McDonald's fry, which is minuscule. Absolutely non-existent. That's why I always have to put salt on my McDonald's chips. But going back to my question, what do we think of Dan Hardy coming back?
I mean, would I watch it? Yes, of course. But I mean, I know obviously there was a midst of the pandemic last year and what have you. So perhaps you could give him somewhat of a pass for that. But it's like you say, he's been talking about it for a while. Like, I can't remember when he got the clearance from the doctor, because obviously let's not forget he does have Wolf Parkinson's. It was Wolf Parkinson's. It was a heart condition. It wasn't anything to
I think it's called Wolf Parkinson's.
Well, yeah, I think it is Wolf Parkinson's or something along those lines. But yeah, let's not forget it was a serious reason that forced him out of the octagon. But he's been cleared for I want to say close to 2 years now, or so, or
but it was longer.
Yeah. So I mean, but he's talked about it for a long time. In this game, in combat sports, and indeed in sports in general, talk is cheap. Your actions speak louder than your words, and I want to see to see him come back. Like, let him have one more comeback fight. I mean, I'm trying to think. He went on like a 2-fight win streak after because he lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, and that was it.
And no, he came back. He had 2 fights.
Dan Hardy?
Yeah, he came back.
Are we living in a parallel universe? Have I got my facts completely wrong? As you're speaking now, I'm going to go and look that up because I thought that his last fight was a loss. And I thought it was...
No. Was it Amir Sadollah? I know he beat Amir Sadollah.
Yeah, you're right. He went on a 2-fight winning streak. He beat Dwayne Ludwig and Amir Sadollah.
Right. Okay. I'll shut up.
All right. But Dwayne Ludwig, I'm not trying to shit on Hardy's wins or whatever, but Dwayne Ludwig towards the end of his career, obviously, and Amir Sadollah. I mean, no, Amir Sadollah is a good win, but obviously he got back in the win column. But he's been out of the octagon for how long now? Is it 5 years? 6 years?
No, it's like 9.
What?
Are you talking about Dan Hardy?
Yes.
It's 9 years.
It's been 9 years.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And why I'm stuck on the whole 4-fight loss, because I remember at the time there was this whole question, why is Dan Hardy still in the UFC after 4 straight losses? Now, albeit, you know, give him his due, he did come back. And as you rightly put me straight, after, you know, Chris Lytle submitted him, he came back and beat Dane Ludwig, and Amir Sadollah. Now, for me, I know I'm digressing and I'm being really, really cheeky here because we normally have one topic each. But the reason why I mentioned Dan Hardy, as I say, was the whole trash talking element. But what's your whole take on Dan Hardy coming back, Kyra, seeing as though we were on this hot topic?
I think we need to give Dan Hardy exactly what he's asking for. And you know what? I want Herb Dean to ref it. And what division is he going to come back to? 170?
He said he could make 155. Do you not remember? He was saying for a while he can make 155. But
okay, good.
Wow, look at you.
I was about to say, I want the listeners to like go into the recording and see the look on Kyros's face.
Yeah.
Saying this. What do you have in mind?
You know what? I have a few matchups in the back of my mind that I'm thinking about. We could, you know what? Why don't we give him Tony Ferguson? They're close to the same age.
By the way, that is something that okay, all right. I like how you're
Cowboy.
Okay, yeah. There's some good fights there. Yeah, the good names there. I didn't even think.
Cowboy's a good gatekeeper name, and I think that I out the two, I like that. I remember seeing something earlier about a possibility that Nick Diaz might be in the frame. Seeing as though they've been out of the cage, okay, Nick Diaz less time than Dan Hardy, but there was still ring rust, cage rust in both circumstances there. So how about Nick Diaz?
I'm down for it. I mean, but I think we get a Nick Diaz where there wouldn't really be that much trash talk because I think he'd respect Hardy. So it would kind of be like similar. Remember the build up between Nick and Anderson Silva? And it was just all cordial. And I remember in the countdown, he's like, "Well, what do you want me to say about him? I can't say anything bad about him. He's a great guy." Blah blah blah. But I'm down for that fight. 100% down for that fight. And the thing is with the UFC, if they are going to get back in the Nick Diaz business, they can't just throw him in with the wolves. Do you know what I mean? They can't just it's got to be somebody who's towards the end of their career and has had a similar-ish layoff. But for the life of me, I did not know that it was 9 years since Dan Hardy is 4. That is,
it's like 8 and some change. It's 8 and some change.
Okay, fair enough. But that even then, like as I said, I thought it was like 5 or 6 years ago. I didn't think it was that long. But I mean, time flies in the sport.
Evidently. But, speaking of time flying, I don't want to hog the proceedings, considering, as I say, we do have one subject each. And I've been extra cheeky in like slipping in that as it was pertinent. But I'm going to hand over to Kairos now, who I understand has got a related shots fired issue that he's bringing to the table.
Yes. MMA and as well as the UFC, they've had so much success over the past few decades. They have taken leaps and bounds in popularity from not just people who like violence, but people who understand that it's an art form and people who love the characters and people who love all of that sort of thing. And with that comes the evolution of technology. We're now a lot more intimate with these fighters and athletes and managers and all these people. They're at the touch of our fingertips. We have these chats on Clubhouse. We have stuff on Twitter. We saw that we were talking with Robin Black, Angela Hill hopped in, Lerone Murphy hopped in. Like we have all this connection with these fighters and these people in the sport, which helps the sport grow even more, and as well as further helps fighters become more I guess aware in the eyes of fans. But is this a bad thing? And I'm gonna stick my head out here and I say I think this is going to turn into something bad, and here's why. The more access we have to these people, the more ways they have to just destroy their careers. We've seen back in 2007, these people had flip phones and still managed to record themselves doing stupid shit, and then people seeing it years later and then it coming back to haunt them. I think we're going to get to a point where there's going to be situations where fighters are coming into these chat rooms thinking that they're safe because you can't screen record the audio, and then someone just having a second phone recording this shit and then having it just for a rainy day and then just post it. Boom. Remember when you called so-and-so the N-word? Remember when you said that person's a nappy-headed hoe? Remember when you and I feel like that right there is going to hurt the sport, because a lot of fighters are going to be like, well, I see what happens to people who extend themselves to the fans and they make one mistake and then they're just branded with an iron forever for it. I think that with the advancement of technology, I think it's going to start hurting us more so than it's been helping us in the past. But what do you two think? And I'm going with G. No, I'm joking. Let's go with Mike.
Okay, I agree with you in terms of the capability and the ability to capture, let's just not put too fine a point on it, fuck ups, is ever increasing. Like you say, look, we've got Clubhouse and we now have Spaces. Speaking of Spaces, quick plug, we are doing a Spaces with Robin Black and guests on Wednesday at 3:30 Eastern and 8:30 UK time. So if you are free, come on, hop on and join in the conversation via Twitter Spaces, which is live. But we do have more and more of these opportunities cropping up to speak with fighters. Think about it. From the evolution of MySpace to what we have now in real time, speaking to people, there's always been that ability to capture people's, indiscretions. But what we have here is to do it in real time. So I'm with you, Kairos. There is that ability, but there was always that ability to capture people in the throes of doing wrongness, badness. Now, for me, I don't think that will ever stop, because you've got fighters who aren't perfect individuals, aren't perfect human beings, and they sooner or later are bound to fuck up, and it will be captured.
Yeah, no,
So yes.
Yeah, no, I see merits to both sides of the argument, and taking it away from mixed martial arts, the advancement in technology and flip phones and video cameras and whatever has gotten Premier League footballers into so much trouble over like the last 20 or 15 years. Like you hear about older players who are now pundits, like commentators and whatever. They talk about all the stuff that they used to get away with in like the 70s and the 80s and maybe even like the early 90s. They were like, oh, well, we'd be able to go out and like have loads of pints and get absolutely wasted and blah, blah, blah. And then people would still turn up to training the next day. But nowadays, a footballer has one, but they might even just be having one drink or whatever on a night out. They get snapped by some Joe Schmo who then sells the photo onto a newspaper or a website and what have you. And then they're branded, oh, so-and-so is drinking but excessively before X, Y, and Z. And I think as it pertains to fighters, I think it's a good and a bad thing how they can interact with fans and how they can market themselves that way. But it's a double-edged sword, because now fans can also get hold of fighters' details. I mean, look at the situation with the douchebag who called Curtis Blades and after he'd been knocked out, and called and said, "Oh, you just got knocked the fuck out afterwards." I mean, there's good and there's bad to it, but as Kyra said, I think it's just, I don't want to say that we're in a sport of fuck ups, because there's fuck ups in all walks of all different sports. I mean, I think that we kind of think that I think we think there are a lot more fuck ups, because obviously we're so deeply immersed into the sport and we consume everything every single day. And then when we see a fuck up from somebody, where it becomes hot news, it becomes a hot topic. But yeah, I think we're now in a situation where people are fans are mixing regularly with fighters and what have you. I think that even just an off the cuff comment or whatever could land people in trouble. And I think, yeah, like you say, Karis, yeah, some people are going to end up in trouble soon. And I think, yeah, especially like when we're talking about like the ever growing platforms like Twitter Spaces and Clubhouse and what have you, where somebody could just say something that is taken completely out of context, and then people can be like, oh, so and so said this word and blah blah, like, or was I don't know, was anti-LGBTQ or what have you. And I mean, yeah, I think we're gonna have some regular fuck ups from people.
And we've seen this before. I remember when the UFC first tried to get onto Snapchat, and like, so they were handing out a lot of these fighters private Snapchats, and with their consent, of course, they asked them for it. And these fighters would put their Snapchats on Twitter. And I added so many of these fighters. I added Dominic Cruz, I added Cowboy, I added Ronda Marcos, I added so many people on Snapchat. And I remember there were some people who were posting some stuff, and luckily, I'm surprised some of it didn't come back. I'm not gonna say it. Some stuff was posted on their Snapchats, and I remember shortly after the UFC stopped trying to be like, oh, follow so and so on Snapchat, because the shit was bad. There was like I was like, wow, they're really living like that. Damn.
What type of things were going down? Because I never downloaded Snapchat. I was never a Snapchat person.
I'm gonna tell you when we aren't. Or can you cut this up? No, I'm gonna tell you off, because it's bad. One of them was bad.
Wow.
I'm looking forward to it. All right. Well, speaking of bad stuff, and this is, yeah, this topic. Well, we all saw what happened. Breaking news on what day are we on? On Tuesday morning. I've lost track of days. That Khamzat Chimaev seemingly appeared to have announced his retirement from mixed martial arts due to the lingering after effects of COVID-19, which he just can't seem to shake, and seem to have, well, I assume, wreaked havoc with his cardiovascular system. Now, obviously, he put out a rather emotional statement saying that I think I'm done with this, guys. And then he subsequently posted a photo of him by a sink with lots of blood, and I'm assuming that he's been coughing up blood during his recovery from the long lingering after effects of COVID. But shortly afterwards, John Morgan of MMA Junkie spoke to UFC President Dana White, who immediately just came out and dismissed the notion of Khamzat being retired. And I think one of the words that he used was he's emotional. He's being overly emotional of the situation, and he basically was suggesting that Khamzat was being, I don't know, a bit short-sighted and not thinking of the long term and the potential for him to recover. And then subsequently, the leader of the Chechen Republic, or well, the dictator of the Chechen Republic, we have to say things as it is. Ramzan Kadyrov came out and claimed that he's steered Chimaev back on the path and he's not retiring. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on the whole situation. In particular, White and Ramzan Kadyrov's comments on the potential retirement of Khamzat Chimaev, who I believe hasn't gone back on social media since announcing or saying that he thinks he's done. So I'm going to go first to Kairos in this. Kairos, what were your thoughts on Dana White's reaction on claiming that Chimaev was being emotional and the subsequent statement from Ramzan Kadyrov?
I think this sends the absolute worst message ever. Essentially it's looking at me like slavery. I'm just gonna keep you guys, I'll keep it a being with you. We've seen Khabib try and walk away, and Dana's having none of it. We've seen a Khamzat walk away because of fucking life-threatening health issues, and then you hear Dana saying, "Nah, he's just like." In what universe are we gonna not respect people's choices? I don't understand how we can sit here and rationalize and be like, oh well, Khamzat's such a promising guy. It's a good thing that Dana convinced him, and that the leader of the country wanted to steer him out away from retirement. Guys, this isn't normal. This doesn't sound good. I don't like the way that this sounds at all. Because you know what? It's got me thinking now. I'm thinking to myself, what if there are fighters in the past in the UFC who wanted to retire, but Dana continuously hounded them and made them continuously fight? And what if that had long-term effects on them? What if that's the reason why certain fighters, like, I don't know, BJ Penn are the way that they are? What if that's the reason why certain fighters like Clay Guida and Alada and Diego Sanchez and all these other fighters who've taken long-lasting damage to them, maybe it wasn't their warrior spirit that kept them in the sport for this long? What if it was Dana White manipulating them and turning their hand and making them stay in the game longer than what they should have done? Maybe it wasn't a question of having money. Maybe it was a question of them being motivated in another way. I don't like it one bit. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, and can you imagine the situation that Chimaev is in right now? I mean, he's had the leader of Chechnya call him, and basically, I don't want to surmise what's been said on the phone or what have you, but he's implored him to continue. And I mean, that's a hell of a situation to find himself in.
The thing that kind of like baffles me, I'm surprised nobody has raised this already. I'm not talking about on shots fired, but I'm talking about elsewhere. Dana has this consistent message that he sent out to fighters, to media, to anybody watching. Now, we know he's the biggest gaslighter, but he said this: if a fighter is talking about retirement, they should retire, and we should be respectful of that. And they are the best judge of their career and their direction. So why is it that in the last two cases, Khabib Nurmagomedov, now Khamzat Chimaev, he's now telling them they are not retired after they have plainly said, and you can get no more plainer, no more clearer, no more transparent than blood in a sink from a man who is going through COVID as a mark of retirement. Respect the man's wishes, but as well as that, you know, as Kairos, expertly said, and I think I'm going to repeat the same phrase because as the majority of our listeners are American, it will have resonance. I'm going to keep it a beam. We're talking about a dictator, not only dictating to his people, but dictating to his friends, colleagues, and business associates. So we would not expect anything else from this dictator when he's talking about Khamzat Chimaev. There is no way that there was a discussion there. There was an order, there was an edict, in my humble opinion, that was handed down. And that edict, it looks as though, is going to be seen through.
Yeah,
We've
no,
got a dictator dictating terms, essentially saying you will fight. Think about the Chechen people. Think about the people who are behind you. Think about the message that it says. You are a status symbol. You are a role model. You cannot retire. That order has been heard, and that order more than likely will be carried out.
yeah, man. And well, we can only hope that it looks like Chimaev will come back at some point. Obviously, he hasn't come out and released a subsequent statement on the matter, but I just hope that he doesn't fight for the rest of the year. I hope they give him as long as possible for him to try get over this. But as a lot of scientific data has shown, that some people have irreparable damage done to them by COVID-19, and they might not ever be the same cardiovascular wise ever again.
If you're coughing up blood, that is a signal you should not be competing. So in the face of that evidence, you put it down to being emotional. The man had blood in the sink. Dana, give it a rest. It reminds me, I mean, I put out a meme about this, but it reminds me of WandaVision, where Wanda actually creates this world entirely to suit herself, entirely of her own love, her own interests, her things that make her happy. That's what Dana's doing with the UFC. Look, I'm creating this entity and it's going to make me happy. So I want you in this.
You know, I haven't seen WandaVision yet. I've heard good things about it.
Amazing.
But I just forget. I completely forgot that she's the third Olsen sister.
Yes, same. I was on episode 4 when I worked that out.
I was like, okay. I was like, what is this the same? I was like, yeah, she's the youngest one. Yeah. God. But yeah, I know. I get what you're saying about Dana White. Ideally, I hope that he's not rushing him to come back. But I think I read somewhere that there's talk about him fighting in June or what have you. But that's maybe I've just misread that or what have you. But that's not anywhere near enough time to recover, man. Not anywhere near enough time to recover. Like I said, let him take the whole of 2020 off. I mean, he's only 26. I mean, let him recover. It's not not going to be that detrimental to his career if he does take that time off. But just don't rush him back. Just do not rush him back, because imagine if there was a situation where, heaven forbid, I'm going to touch some wood right now, that where his cardiovascular system failed him in a fight because of COVID. Like, I mean, I hate to put bad things into the air, but this is something that you have to think about when you're pushing somebody whose cardiovascular endurance system is being compromised, when you're pushing them back to action.
Crazy.
I know.
This is scary to think about, because that's immediately what I thought. I was like, this is going to be a serious learning experience for us as fight fans, because we might see someone. MMA fans aren't like boxing. Boxing fans have seen people die in the ring. Yeah. Boxing fans have seen people take irreparable damage, go into the hospital, and die that same night. We've seen it. They've seen it happen tons and tons of times. I'm not a boxing fan, but even I'm aware of it. This could, if it isn't handled correctly, this could turn out to be something like that. And if we're gonna keep it honest, we know damn well Khamzat is one of the toughest people on the planet. Like, the man, we know he's tough. So for him to get up there and tell us, guys, it's not looking good for me. I don't feel good. I think it's time for me to walk away. Think about what that really means. The fact that he said that and then said it to millions of people. He flat out told y'all. So it must be serious. And yet y'all was trying to line him up for another fight in May or whatever. Like, bro, I'm telling you this right now. I'm telling you this right now. If he fights, I really don't think it's going to be it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good for the sport. It's not going to be good for him. We might see something that we wish we hadn't.
Well, touch wood that doesn't happen and what have you, but I mean, it looks like both men are going to get what they want in terms of Chimaev competing again. And while we love him, like we love what he's done so far, and like the splash that he's made, or some people don't like him and think that he's overrated or what have you. Health comes before everything else, man. And hopefully he's allowed to recover for as long as possible.
Well, we haven't got long to wait until the next set of fights that we're going to be talking about. UFC 259 rolls around this coming weekend. And I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, Chisanga, that you spoke to one of the key figures that will be on the main card, because really and truly, we can talk about this card from top to bottom. It is, I know this is an old cliche, but I can't think of any other word to describe it. It is stacked. Let's just not even touch the title fight. Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya, Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson, Piotr Jan and Aljamain Sterling. The entire main card is just fire. Thiago Santos and Alexander Rakic. I can't wait to see that. I cannot wait.
Yeah, that's good for me. That's going to be an absolute barn burner because I think Thiago's got a lot to prove after that loss to Glover Teixeira. In that fight, I think he was a bit tentative, and obviously he would do because he basically, well, did he tear his ligaments in both knees? I know he completely tore one knee in that fight with John Jones, so you would be tentative going back into your first fight back from major surgery. But something about this fight tells me that he's just going to come out guns a-blazing early doors, and that this fight isn't going to go the distance. And the main Carter, who I spoke to, obviously was the opposite side of this fight, Aleksander Rakic, which we previewed his showdown with Thiago. So people, just check it out right now. Hi, Alexander. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Are you still in quarantine in the hotel room right now, or?
No, not yet. We're gonna enter today the UFC hotel. We went. Me and my team came 5 days ago. We stayed in another hotel just to acclimate because it's a long flight from Europe here, and the time difference is 9 hours. So we came earlier to acclimate, and today we're gonna enter the UFC hotel and the bubble, and then we're gonna be quarantined for 1 or 2 days. I don't know.
Okay, and obviously this is your second time being back in Vegas, fighting in Vegas. It's a different vibe. Obviously, there's not going to be any fans.
Yeah, I mean, yes, it's the second time, and I love fans, and I love how they cheer, and I love the audience. But in another way, without fans, I can hear my coaches even better. I can hear my opponent breathing. I can hear his corner. So it's some positive things or some negative things, you know. But for me, I enjoy it also without fans because this is a sport, and yeah, the people, we live in this technology now. Everybody can take out the phone and watch the fight, you know. And yeah, but I'm hoping soon there's gonna be fans in the arena and they cheer for us.
Okay, so obviously you only managed to fight once in 2020 because of obviously the pandemic. How was 2020 for you in general, like for yourself and your family? Was it a time that you managed to like heal up and like to spend some more time with your friends and family, or was it a difficult time? Because like a lot of people were struggling emotionally during that time as well.
Yeah, I mean, 2020 for myself and for my family was a good year. I won the fight against Anthony Smith. 7 days later, I married my wife.
Oh, congratulations! Yes.
Thank you. And a couple of days later, my son turned 1 year old, and we had a lot of things to celebrate. And also, you know, we didn't have COVID-19. All my family was healthy, and yeah, this lockdown thing was a plus for myself. I spent a lot of time with my family and with my son. So basically, 2020 was another year for me.
Okay, that's good. And moving on to the fight itself, obviously you're fighting Thiago Santos on Saturday night. What did you make of Thiago's performance in his last fight? Because for a lot of people, he seemed to be, well, I know he was recovering from the double knee surgery, but he seemed to be a bit tentative. He wasn't the same Thiago that fought John Jones the previous summer.
Yeah, the fight against John Jones, he did very well, and he came out of the fight with 2 injured knees. So the surgery he does took very long. I know it for myself. I had also a knee surgery twice on one knee, and I know how long does it take to get back, and not only physically, also mentally. And you could see in the fight against Glover that he was a little bit tense, and you saw the ring rust. You know, he didn't fought for 1 year and I think 2-3 months, but still dangerous. He dropped Glover 2 or 3 times, and I'm expecting Thiago gonna be now more relaxed and more dangerous than against Glover. And yeah, you never know. You know, he's an explosive guy with wild style, doing wild stuff, capoeira things, jumping around, flying knees, everything else. So I'm gonna be ready for that, and I know what he can bring to the table.
And you touched on it there. He is very wild. He's very eccentric. He's a difficult guy to really prepare for. How have you gone about doing that?
I had amazing sparring partners back in Croatia, where I did my training camp in an American top team. I had very heavy guys, also heavyweights. I brought also pure kickboxers in. We know that Santos preferred the stand-up fight. So. And my sparring partners was trying to simulate him, and they did really good, and I felt very good in the sparring. It was a hard time there, a hard sparring session, but it went everything good with no injuries, and yeah, we are ready to go.
And obviously, I know you're never the type of fighter to look too far ahead into the future. That's one thing that that quite impresses me about your demeanor, because I know a lot of fighters always think, oh, after this fight, I want to do X, Y, and Z. But given the fact that you're not ranked number 4 in the light heavyweight rankings, are you at all perhaps thinking that an impressive win over Thiago could get you a title shot?
Yes, of course. I mean, if I win with a highlight reel knockout or a great performance, you know, the UFC loves that and they love entertaining. But for me, it's important to be ice cold and to win. You know, doesn't matter how. For me, is the win important, and we're gonna see what the UFC decides, because the UFC decides Glover is in front. So we're gonna see what happened with Jan and Izzy, and then Glover is stepping in. So you never know. You know, I'm gonna sit back. I'm gonna stay tight, and I'm gonna see what the UFC wants. But of course, one of my dreams is to get the title.
And
fighting for the title.
And you touched on it there on the main event. What's your predictions for the main event? Because stylistically, it's a fascinating matchup, and obviously because Izzy's moving up in weight.
Yeah, my prediction for this fight is if the fight goes to the distance, Israel gonna win by decision. Either fight goes to the ground or to the clinch, I see Jan in favor, and draining his energy and maybe finishing him. That's my prediction.
And I think I'm trying to get my dates right. I think in 2 days it will be the 4th anniversary of you winning your last fight in Austrian Fight Challenge before you got the contract to fight for the UFC. How would you assess your time in the UFC since then? Because it's been a bit of a roller coaster, hasn't it? I mean, like, obviously you had the 4-fight or 5-fight win streak and then the loss to Özdemir, but your time in the UFC has been very impressive so far.
Yeah, you are right. 4 years ago, I fought in the last time in Austria. Then I sent to the UFC. Man, it's been an amazing ride. 4 years now in the UFC. The time goes so fast, and I'm improving every day. Every fight, you see a better version of Aleksander Rakic, and that's amazing. I had great fights, and also the Volkan Özdemir fight. I didn't felt like a loser in this fight. I lost by split decision, but everybody who understands MMA knows who the winner is. So I'm basically undefeated in the UFC, only on the papers not. But doesn't matter, because you saw what the UFC gave me after that fight, even a better ranked opponent, Anthony Smith, and I went through him like nothing. And now, again, having the chance to fight the number 2 ranked in the world, that means a lot to me, and the UFC knows that I'm a prospect for them, a prospect and a title challenger soon. So it's amazing, and it's one of my dreams, came true. So I love my job, and I'm enjoying every second of this time right now.
All right, and this is going to be a final question for me. I appreciate the time, Alexander. How do you foresee this fight with Thiago playing out?
I'm gonna think he's gonna come wild in the first round. He want to surprise me with some kicks, some wild punches, close the distance. You know, try to be in his range to box with me, and throwing these wild kicks, flying elbows like this. I expect the first round gonna be you're gonna be explosive, but I'm getting used to this. My sparrings and my training camp, all of those guys put so much pressure on me, and I'm getting used to this pressure right now. And I'm ready for 3 rounds of hell. I'm ready for 3 rounds of pure dominance. I'm ready in the stand-up position, in the wrestling position, in the grappling position, if it comes to the wrestling and grappling. And of course, I would love to knock him out in the first round and coming out with no injuries, but you never know. I don't want to say I'm knocking him out in the first or the second or the third. I'm gonna go just in there, be ice cold, and pick my shots. And if someone goes through, it's gonna be bye-bye. But we're gonna see.
All right, Alexander, thank you very much for your time today. I really do appreciate it. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
Take care. All right, folks, and we are back now. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on this matchup between Aleksander Rakic and Thiago Santos? I mean, Aleksander Rakic obviously only has the one loss in the octagon so far, and I believe that was to Volkan Ozdemir, but that was a disputed defeat for Rakic. What are your thoughts on the fight, and in particular, how confident Alexander is going into it?
Let's face it, look, Aleksander Rakic is a nightmare. Indelible as it is in my brain, I find it very, very hard for anybody. I mean, just park that aside. I mean, I shudder to say this, but when he fought Jimmy Manuwa and that finish, the way in which he slayed that man, I will never forget that. That gives me like chills thinking about it. I'm literally sitting here and that's giving me chills. So I personally feel as though the confidence in the way that he's approaching this is not out of place. This guy is on fire. He's ferocious. But not only that, I think it's a problem for the light heavyweight division. And don't get me wrong, Thiago Santos is a beast, but there are levels, as they say, to this shit.
And let's not forget as well, I mean, Father Time. Thiago Santos is 37 now, man. And Aleksander Rakic is 28, 29. Kairos, what's your thoughts on that?
This might be another Rosenstruik versus Gane. This might be a serious scenario where I think Thiago is sitting back and he's tentative and he's throwing zero volume. And I think Rakic just says, okay, fine. I'm comfortable racking up points, throwing 10 strikes in a round and it going to a decision like, guys, I'm just going to keep it a buck with you. All of our heroes get old. They get old. And Thiago has fought like this for quite some time. And it might be watching that Glover fight. I just like what people don't realize that a lot of these knee injuries are like 95% mental. It is like 5% physical, 95% mental. And watching him fight in that fight, I was just like, he's afraid to get hurt again. I could see it. I could see it in the way he walked. I could see it in the way he moved on it. He is afraid to get hurt again. And maybe he worked that out in between last fight and this fight, but I doubt it because certain psychological blocks like that are very hard to break for people because they either can run through the wall or it takes years. And he's up there in age, and that's a traumatic injury. I don't see this being as exciting. I hope it's exciting. Don't get me wrong. I want it to be exciting, but I'm not going to put my hat on it. I'm just not. And I'm picking Rakic, flat out decision.
Yeah, I'm picking Rakic to get the job done.
Sorry.
And let's not forget, like if Rakic, I believe he's ranked number 4 right now. If he was to start Thiago Santos, I have a funny feeling that Glover Teixeira is going to end up being the bridesmaid, not the bride, and that he probably end up getting a title shot ahead of him. Because what you got to think of as well, you got to think of the longevity of the division. Do you give Glover the winner of Izzy versus Jan? And say Glover wins, Glover's not going to be around for the next 5 years. Glover's probably going to be done, I think, probably within. I'm not trying to bring the curtain down in his career or whatever, but I probably think Glover's probably got another 18 months or so before he retires. Yeah. So I think Rakic, I think he probably knows that a title shot is within his grasp, and I think that he's going to be more motivated as hell to get a stoppage, in fact, an emphatic stoppage victory. Sorry.
How about you, Kairos? I didn't get a gauge on what you're looking forward to this Saturday.
I really like Drew Dober and Islam Makhachev because it's about time we've seen what Islam can do. Like there's been talks. DC's like, he could be the next champion. He has better striking than Khabib already. And you got who was it who said that Islam would out wrestle Khabib in a straight wrestling match?
Yeah.
DC said that bullshit.
I think it was DC that said
I heard that. I was like, ain't no fucking way. So it's time for us to figure it out right now. Like he had an impressive performance when he KO'd, who was it? Gleason Tebow. I was like, okay, this dude really got the hands. No one touches Gleason like that. But we got to see what he can do against tougher challenges. And this is a good start. I like that fight as well. But on the prelims, I'm interested in Hinata Souza versus Amanda Lemos, because you guys know I'm a huge women's mixed martial arts fan. I'm just curious to see if this is too much for Lemos, because Hinata Souza her ranking is a little bit low. She should probably be a lot higher. She should probably be in the top, I think 7 to 8. I think she's sitting at like outside the 10 right now. So I think this is too much for Lemos. This is her second or third fight under the UFC banner, and one of them was the Contender Series. So it should be interesting for me, at least.
What, but you're not looking forward to? All right, I'll go back to the Islam fight. Everybody, like I've spoken to multiple people at American Top Team, and they've all told me that, literally Islam is. I'm going to use a UK word. He is the dog's bollocks, a UK idiom. Sorry, he is the dog's bollocks. That he is what everybody says he is. And additionally, Coach Javier has talked about, there's one person who loses rounds 2 in the gym, blah blah blah, and he told me that Islam Makhachev is said person who loses rounds 2 in the gym. So, I mean, obviously, competition and being in the gym are two completely different things. But if that's true, man, we really just haven't seen. I'm looking at Kairos right now. We haven't seen the best of Islam. But as you say, it's about time, because I, for one, don't know how he's got his ranking without beating anybody in the rankings. But we'll see. We'll see what he's made of. Is Dober ranked 15, or he was ranked 15 at one point? But we'll see. But anyway, I can see you're about to explode from Islam. We'll move away from that.
No, let's talk about it. Hold on. We need to talk about this. I'm not going to let you get this off. You know what? No, I'm not going to. Those motherfuckers at AKA are the biggest fucking liars on the planet. How the fuck does Khabib beat DC, beat Luke Rockhold, beat all his huge dudes in fucking rounds and doesn't lose a round, but he gonna lose around Islam Makhachev? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. You're gonna tell me he's out wrestling DC, who has to cut weight to get to heavyweight, but he's losing around Islam Makhachev? These motherfuckers, this is why, they lie so fucking much underneath that roof. I don't even know what the truth is. Cain Velasquez trains underneath that roof, for God's fucking sake. And they said that Khabib be taking him down. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. No, he ain't. No. Islam could be a phenomenal fighter, but stop making up mythological stories about these fucking fighters under the roof. You guys must think we're so fucking dumb. Like this, y'all must think we are so dumb to believe this bullshit. And there are some people who do, but not me. No.
Oh, I think we know what is going to be the video excerpt this episode. Oh my god! All right, man. You must be excited for. Well, I think this is obviously. I don't want to say it's kind of a crossroads fight, but it's an interesting fight to gauge where he's still at. The Dominic Cruz fight against Casey Kenny, because obviously Dominic had the 4-year layoff going into the Henry Cejudo fight, but we still haven't seen like the noticeable drop off in performance. Well, obviously the Cody Garbrandt loss. Garbrandt just outclassed him. Team Alpha Male had the perfect game plan. I mean, Justin Buchholz has been preparing for Dominic Cruz so many times. He can mimic his movements perfectly, so they had the perfect game plan for that. And in the loss to Henry Cejudo had the great game plan. And I think it was more the defeat to for Dominic, was more so with Cejudo being very, very good rather than Dominic being very, very bad. So we don't really know where Dominic Cruz is. Is he on the decline? Is he still the same? Or, I mean, we'll find out, especially against an uppercomer like Casey Kenny.
I mean, I'm the biggest Dominic Cruz fan in the world. Like, that guy got me through some, like, seeing how he handled his ACL surgeries and multiple forms of adversity helped me get through mine. Like, I took inspiration from him. So if there's anybody who's always believing in him, it's gonna be me. But I'm gonna be honest with you. He's on the decline and we don't see it because he's so inactive. Like, that's the biggest. He's given us examples that ring rust isn't a factor and all this other stuff, but it is very much a factor. And just because you dodged it a few times when you came back 1 out of 2 or 3 out of 4 times doesn't negate it. It's a very real thing and it happens. It just does. And I'm not going to say that I think Casey Kenny can beat him. I'm picking Dominic Cruz to win, but I do think he's declining and he's getting up there in age. And I think the game is starting to evolve towards him. And when you look at Dominic Cruz, all of his best attributes are so great, but everything else is incredibly low. He's not very flexible. His strike selection is very limited. When he takes you down, it's for ground control. He's not holding you down there. So his game, unless he's drastically improved everything that he has not shown us to improve upon, he's going to be the same Dominic Cruz that we're used to seeing. And the game is not in 2003. And you're not going against Uriah Faber anymore. You're not going against Joseph Benavidez anymore. You're not going against undersized bantamweights and flyweights anymore. You're going against real bantamweights, and it's going to be a problem. And
Are we really doing this though? Because Casey Kenny, who did he fight before? Was it Dominic? Nathaniel Wood.
I believe. I think, yeah.
No, you're right. Dominic Cruz, you're right, Kairos. He's on the decline, but that's why he's been given Casey Kenny. Casey Kenny, yes, is a live dog. Yes, he's a up and comer, but he's hardly like, Mr. Sharpshooting Killer. He's hardly like the ninja on the grassy knoll. He's hardly, what I'm saying is, we know what the outcome is given where Dominic is and where Casey is. I just can't see Casey coming through Dominic Cruz. I just can't see it.
I didn't say he did. What is that what you took from that?
Yeah.
You took the wrong thing. I'm saying even through all that, he's still better than Casey. Yeah. But even if he wins this fight, he loses in the end because you look at this is the worst possible time you could ever be successful at bantamweight. You have TJ coming back. You have Cody deciding not to go back down to 125. He's back at 135. You got guys like Cheeto, Sean, and all these people coming up in the rankings. Like, this is the most competitive bantamweight has been in the last 5 years, maybe the last 7 years. So I'm looking more towards the future. Ain't no fucking way a guy named Casey Kenny's beating Dominic Cruz. I'm sorry. It ain't fucking happening. But I'm just saying that
people are just gonna chop this clip. Ain't no way. You know what I mean? I could see it happening now.
It is what I believe
the one that I'm going to be using.
do that. But I'm just saying, like, it's just, I'm worried for him. Because when he wins, he's going to be in a more fucked up position than he was.
This is true. All right. What are people's thoughts on the title fights? We got to get to these, like, these delectable title fights that have been bestowed upon us. 3 consecutive bangers. I mean, oh man, literally, yeah. I'm doing the Spice Adams as soon as I saw that thing. Like, just oh man, Mike, what are your predictions for the 3 title fights? And you can go in any order.
Okay, Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling. Now, because of what I brought to the table this week, because of that kind of what's the word I'm looking for? That misstep by Petr Yan, that's put him in my bad books. And I would like to see him get a solid submission from Aljamain Sterling. I want to see him unconscious, but I just can't see it. Petr Yan is dangerous. Petr Yan's too fast. Petr Yan's too wily. And Yan versus Sterling, I hate to say this, but I do see Petr Yan having his arm raised and still. Amanda Nunes, Megan Anderson, come on, this is one-way traffic. This is going to be kind of like, I think this will be done in the second round. I really do see this kind of like being dominance from Amanda Nunes. And as for Jan Blachowicz and Israel Adesanya, Polish power all the way. It hurts me to say this because Izzy is a beast in his weight category, but he's going up to light heavyweight, where Jan has proven to be like ferocious, a force to be reckoned with. And the way that I look at it, I just think that in my mind's eye, the romanticized view of Israel Adesanya being a two-weight champion, it's beautiful. But realistically, I don't think it's going to happen. I think we're looking at Polish power being dominant on Saturday.
Yeah, man. For me, like as you said, I'd love to see Aljamain Sterling get a submission victory, but I think in that fight, Jan's been pretty hard to take down early doors as well, and that's something that Aljamain will have to do in order to get this victory. And the longer the fight goes, we've seen that Peter Yan his cardio just improves, kind of like Tony Ferguson of like 3 or 4 years ago, and he just gets better and better. And it pains me to say this, I'd love to see Aljamain get his hands on the title, but I think Piotr is going to win. As for Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson, I think Amanda's going to win by a 3rd round TKO. That's my prediction. I think Megan will put up a bit more sterner resistance than a lot of people are expecting, but I think ultimately Amanda will oppose her will on her. And I mean, it could even be done in the 1st round. I mean, we all see all these women go into the fight with obviously there's a degree of fear of and respect of what Amanda does, but we all see the look in their faces after Amanda lands that first stinging right hand. They're all deers in the headlight. Like, well, I don't even think that's the right metaphor for it. It's worse like it's just the realization. Like, what's that song that is played on all the TikToks and Vines and whatever? Oh no, oh no, oh no, no, no. It's literally like that. You know what I mean? That's
yes.
Like, if somebody, Kairos, that's your job. You need to make a compilation of all the times that Amanda Nunes has cracked somebody with the right hand, and they have a look on their head, on their faces, and then put that song to it.
That's pretty easy to do. All right, I got you.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm torn on the Jan Blachowicz Israel Adesanya one, man. I mean, Jan hasn't fought a striker with such a diverse arsenal as Israel Adesanya, and I spoke to him last week, and he's saying, yeah, we brought in adequate sparring partners to prepare for him and what have you. We got everything covered. And while I don't doubt his claim that they brought in excellent sparring partners, but there's nobody on the planet who can replicate what Israel Adesanya does. He's the most dynamic striker in mixed martial arts. The way he mixes things up, the way he switches from stances, the way, I can't remember what fight it was where he switched stance through a spinning back kick and then followed up with a spinning kick as well. I mean, it's just such a pleasure to watch on the feet. And I mean, his takedown defense is good. Obviously, remember Derek Brunson had to try cheat and pull down his shorts to try get him down to the ground, and even then he couldn't do that. But for me, I don't know. I think, in fact, no, I'm gonna go Adesanya to win on points. That's my prediction. I think he's just gonna stay on the outside. I think he might even have a reach advantage over Jan. Like, Israel Adesanya's got some long ass arms. But if I'm wrong, people feel free to come at me. But I think he's going to stay on the outside. He's going to be wary of that Polish power because it's a serious, serious thing. And I think he's just going to outpoint him.
Garros?
Listen, y'all are sleeping on Aljamain Sterling, and here's why. This man doesn't need to get a takedown. He just needs to threaten you with it. He just has to have that threat in the back of your mind. I remember watching him go toe-to-toe with Pedro Munoz and absolutely out-voluming him for every single round. We know that Yan starts off slow. All Aljamain has to do is get ahead. He just has to get ahead and force Yan to either speed up to compensate for that discrepancy in pace, or he's just going to run away. All he has to do is win 3 rounds and survive. That's all he has to do is win 3 rounds. And Aljamain is more than capable of doing that. He is strong, he is big, and he can keep that output forever. We might see him rack up close to 100 150 now. We might see him hit 120 significant strikes, whether it's thrown or landed. He's gonna hit that 100 mark, and it's only a question of if Yan can get him out there or outstrike him in those rounds. I'm telling you, Aljamain is nothing to be trifled with. Y'all can not like him, y'all can like whatever you want. He's nothing to be trifled with, and I'm picking him. I'm picking him either 49-48. Yeah, I'm picking 49-48. I think he can easily scratch out 3 rounds. I don't think Yan is going to be able to finish him. And I don't think he gets a 10-8 round anywhere in there to make the scorecards different. Following that, I think Amanda Nunes and Megan Anderson is going to play out a little bit like how GDR Amanda played, because Megan is sneaky. Megan's sneaky and unorthodox, and she's going to touch Amanda at least once or twice with some heavy shots. And then Amanda's just going to wrestle the shit out of her. She's just going to wrestle the shit out of her, and that's going to be that for the end of the fight. Any success Megan has is going to be here and gone. I don't necessarily think that Amanda's going to strike with her for 25 minutes or try and knock her out. I think as soon as she feels Megan's power and she's like, all right, well, I got power too, but I don't need to show it. This is MMA. We're going to grapple. I think that's going to be the fight. As far as Yan versus Izzy goes, y'all are tripping. You guys are trying to get me to believe that Yan, the man who struggled against Jacare, is going to be the greatest striker that has ever transitioned into mixed martial. Y'all really want me to believe that in a striking match, he's going to outstrike the greatest striker we ever seen? Not to mention, we all want to talk about how well he looked against Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes did not look good in that fight. And Yan still was struggling. Not struggling, but Yan took a little bit to get started. I'm not resting no faith in Yan in this fight. We might even see Yan get embarrassed. This might be one of the more embarrassing fights we see. Just like how I thought Costa was going to be embarrassing. I think Yan is going to get embarrassed because, one, he's slow as shit.
Wow.
He's slow. Light heavyweights aren't used to that speed. And he's incredibly bulky, and he has a very limited way of winning. If he doesn't knock out Israel, he's not winning. He has to knock him out, and that's a dangerous position. For you to knock out someone to win? No, I'm not betting nothing on you. No. Israel can win a decision. He can knock you out. We've seen him have an impressive ground game off the back, even though he hasn't had to use it. Like, Israel has routes to win. Yan doesn't have that many routes to win. That's it.
Yeah, man. Now, I said Israel by points, so don't be lumping me in the same group as Mike.
We know who said what.
You said yo. I was like, no. Nah. this gentleman, Mr. Morgan. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yan's route to victory, it does lie in him knocking him out. It does lie in him landing that big left hand or even the big body kick. Or let's not forget, man. Do you remember the welt on Dominic Reyes' body on Dominic Reyes' right hand side when he landed those body kicks?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I just can't wait for this fight. I really can't. I mean, both guys are really, really nice as well. I mean, I think Jan Blachowicz, the turning point for me, I know that he beat Nikita Krylov before, after he had the back-to-back losses to Patrick Cummins and Alexander Gustafsson. But the real turning point for me was at UFC London when he beat Jimmy Manu in that rematch. Because everybody really, Mike, and I'm sure you included, were picking Jimmy to handily beat him.
Yeah.
Everybody was, but he showed that he well and truly leveled up and put on a great performance. And I mean, I like Jan Blachowicz. He's a nice guy, but I just don't think he's going to get his hand raised. And I think it's going to, unfortunately for him, be a short-lived title reign.
Well, we haven't got long to wait. Before then, though, as I mentioned earlier, we will be on Twitter Spaces with, Robin Black and special guests. And if you wanted to follow us or any of the conversations that we've had, continue those on Twitter. I'm at MikeWoTV. Where can people find you guys?
People can find me on Twitter and not on Snapchat, but you can find me on Instagram. I do the gram at Chisanga_Malata.
You can find me on TikTok. Y'all better go on that TikTok and run it up, all right? We're taking over. I'm sick and tired of people hopping on TikTok and messing up the perception of our sport. We got to get people out there. Like, remember that guy who was talking about why Conor lost to Dustin? We can't have that no more. We can't have that no more. Follow me on TikTok. Support me so we can get people like that the fuck out of there. Also, I'm on Twitter as well. Kairos MMA for both of them. Please, y'all. Please, we got to get these people out of here.
On that note, we'll see you all on Twitter Spaces.
Yo. Shots fired for fuck's sake. Shots fired for fuck's sake. You know the shots fired. Shots fired, yeah. You know the shots fired. Shots fired, yeah. Shots fired for fuck's sake. Shots fired for fuck's sake. You know the shots fired. Shots fired, yeah. You know the shots fired. Shots fired, yeah. Shots fired with Kairos. Shots fired with Shazanga. Shots fired with Gina. And shots fired with Michael. His mom sit down. Grown folk about to have a conversation now. His mom sit down. Grown folk about to have a conversation now. Shots fired.
Thank you.